Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
Amy Cornell.
And we are, I think, Amy, this was reader, I'm sorry, not a reader suggestion. This was a listener suggestion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was. And which I love because those are some of I love that we get ideas from everywhere, but I really love when listeners, because it's like, especially because you think, oh gosh, they listen probably to lots of our shows, I would hope, and for them to say, okay, this would be really helpful to add to everything else that you're covering just makes me feel like, okay, great. We're, building a really solid foundation when I know somebody that knows all the topics we cover says, this could be covered again, or this could be covered better, or this could be covered in a new way. Like, we love that feedback.
Yeah. And this is also because, we sometimes Amy and I sit around, we talk about, okay, what show should we, creating a list of shows and kind of mapping those out. And we're going to miss some stuff that you all really want to hear about. So for sure, send us your show ideas. We love those. And I also just want to say, for those of you listening, it's actually kind of shocking that Penny even had time to record a podcast today, because many of you, and it's been on the national news and all this other stuff. So the Big Bear Eagles just hatched like yesterday, and Amy and I are on this string together, and all I've been doing is like sending pictures of like eagle babies and eagle videos and all this other stuff. So it's it's like this nationwide like craze that they finally have babies, because I think for the last 3 years the eggs were a dud. But so yeah, just be super grateful that I made the time. this video. I walked in my house this morning after walking the dog, and I'm like, why does my house sound like it's full of birds? And because I have on my second screen on my desk, I have I thought, oh my gosh, I have birds in my house. But I have it on the second screen, the webcam. So anyway, so be grateful Penny's here, because she's very distracted with the new little eagle babies. But always time to create a podcast. Amy and I were talking about this. Like, we really love doing this podcast. In fact, we've had our blog for years, and we love the blog, but we really, and I hate to say this because it sounds like we're talking about our our little AME children or whatever, but we love the podcast really more than we love the blog. And I think it's because a lot of times, we used to be very scripted. And if you've been with us since season 1, you know that. We are so much less scripted. We're just kind of like, we put some notes together, we sit in the green room, we brainstorm, and boom, we start recording. I think we were always authentic. Like, I don't want to say like year 1, we just lied to you. But I think we've become more, what's the word I'm looking for, Amy? We've become more,
I think we're definitely more natural than we were.
Natural, yeah. That's probably the best.
And I think without being so scripted, I think y'all get a lot more honest reactions and feedback.
Yeah.
As well. Because if it wasn't scripted for us to like get super pissed about something, it probably didn't happen as much.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, Amy and I both listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the things that she and I both and a lot of them I realized were true crime, so they're not really related to this
genre, but
right. It's a very different market. But one of the things that we really don't like in some of these shows is a long preamble, like, oh, the kids are doing fine, and it's like, get down to it. So with that said, now that we've had somewhat of a long preamble, we are talking about Kindle Unlimited and is it right for you? There's a lot of confusion about Kindle Unlimited. And, I know that a lot of people have kind of a love-hate relationship, like Amazon's trying to own all of publishing. I got news for you. Amazon already owns all of publishing.
Yeah.
If we wanted to fix that, we should have started this conversation like 15 years ago. So Kindle Unlimited, so let's talk, and there's a lot of confusion actually around KDP versus Kindle Unlimited. And Amy, I know we didn't talk about this in the green room, and I didn't add it in the notes, but it just kind of occurred to me. That's why we love these unscripted shows, because stuff just pops into our head while we're recording. So KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is Amazon's publishing portal. You can be in KDP without being in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is a special and different um, service that Amazon offers. Being a KDP Kindle Direct Publishing author does not mean you're automatically in Kindle Unlimited. And I have this conversation with authors all the time. They're like, well, I don't want to publish on KDP because I don't want to be exclusive to Amazon. You are not exclusive to Amazon if you are in KDP. Full stop. You are exclusive to Amazon only for your ebook if you are in Kindle Unlimited, because the guidelines of Kindle Unlimited are that if you want to be in Kindle Unlimited for your ebook, so it's only ebook right now. Amazon's not going to be mailing out print books to people for free anytime soon.
Hmm.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God, no.
Your ebook cannot be anywhere else in, it can't be in Nook, it can't be in Kobo, it can't be anywhere else. But your print book can be everywhere. So a lot of times authors, when they're deciding whether or not to be in Kindle Unlimited, they're like, well, my print book is everywhere, so I can't be in Kindle Unlimited. And that's not really the point. So your ebook, if you're in Kindle Unlimited, has to be exclusive. And now you can have two different types of Kindle Unlimited. You can have Kindle Unlimited where you automatically re-enroll, just like you are continually in Kindle Unlimited, or you can do Kindle Unlimited for 90 days at a time. My preference is do it for 90 days at a time, because what we're going to break down for you in this show is that you may or may not want to stay in it based on how well that your book is doing. And Amy, because I'm I have my books in Kindle Unlimited, and I'll explain why, but I also subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, as do you, right, Amy?
Yes, I do actually. And it's funny. I did that probably because you recommended a book, and
Right.
that would really make the most sense, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it probably came when you recommended a slew of books, honestly, because then at some point, Penny listens to a lot of really fabulous books by really fabulous authors, but those also they can be more expensive too, because they've earned it, which I fully support. But when I have like multiple book recommendations to catch up on, I'm like doing the quick math. It's like, oh my gosh, it would be cheaper for me to be in Kindle Unlimited. So I'm almost positive that's how it started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise getting all of those ebooks individually, it's like, oh my gosh, like, that's a lot to commit to. But then I'm like, okay, but if these are all in Kindle Unlimited, then I've got a lower monthly fee and I can get to them when I can get to them. And it was great.
Right, exactly. But so I appreciate that I did send her, like I sent her an email with a whole bunch of recs. I'm like, here are 8 books that you
Yeah. Yes.
love, and you have 2 kids and all the things going on, and I'm sure you have tons of time to spend with these 8 books. But I think that other than, I mean, most people generally, people can recommend books, but you still have to make the decision on whether or not you're going to get them.
Right.
How much do you think did Kindle Unlimited? Obviously that really kind of informed your choice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things too. And granted, your recommendation means a lot, but
Well,
I can't say that I'd ever read books by those authors, so it wasn't like we were saying
that's
like,
the thing. Yeah.
no, this person that we've read, like she's got a new book out, it's coming out soon, grab it, whatever. These were all authors I'd never read before, and so that was a great aspect to this, and why Kindle Unlimited is so appealing is because it's like, okay, I can test out these authors and see if I like them, and I get to test out all of them for just the cost of the monthly fee for Kindle Unlimited. It's not a per book, and again, we talk about it all the time. Books technically are not high ticket items for the most part compared to a lot of things we spend our money on. But when you tie in the cost of a book with, like you said, the time commitment you have to put in, that's when people don't click buy. I think most people, they're just not ready to put in the time to read that book in addition to spending the money. It's really a combination of the two.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that the readers in Kindle Unlimited are not that dissimilar from what Amy just described in terms of how she makes her decisions. I mean, A, they read a lot because they're in Kindle Unlimited, and
Mhm.
B, they're probably more likely to explore and experiment with new untested authors, as Amy did with
Yeah.
the books that I recommended. But I think, and we get this question a lot, like, should my book be in Kindle Unlimited? And I would say that, are there other books that, what does your genre look like?
Mhm.
Right? So are, are books in your genre in Kindle Unlimited generally? You're still going to find, you're going to find for some genres, you'll say, well, it's kind of 50-50. And then I would say, well, then you probably really want to be super strategic about this. There aren't necessarily downsides to Kindle Unlimited. I mean, you get paid by the page read. So if somebody only gets through half of your book, you only get paid for half, right? Um, and I don't know exactly what that per page read is because I'll be honest with you, it changes a lot. And those of us who have books in Kindle Unlimited get sent emails like, oh, Amazon has like billions of dollars and you're getting, whatever, 5 cents a page or something. Fine.
Mhm.
Um, so I think you have to look at your genre, the first thing. There's a couple of genres that we know just off the top of our heads that do well in Kindle Limited, and those are particular genre fiction. So romance, mystery, mystery thriller, right? Those tend to do really well. Um, Books that are like business books, I mean, you're going to see maybe 50-50. Maybe the spread is more 30-70 in terms of 30% being in Kindle Unlimited. You really have to look at your readership. I think people who are buying business books are willing to spend the money on business books, and in other markets, not that they're not willing to spend the money, but again, because the genre fiction readers tend to be more voracious readers, they read a lot. That start like my list of 8 books that I sent to Amy, that starts to really tally up.
Right.
Um, I mean, Amy, have you gotten feedback from our authors just in terms of whether they're in KU, or do you get this question a lot too?
I mean, they ask about it only because it sounds like, and I have not experienced this for myself. It sounds like they kind of push it. I get this a lot from our first time authors for sure. As they're setting up their book and everything, they're like, wait, it kind of like stops them in their tracks before they finish their upload and things like that. Should I be in this? And it's like, okay, well, we're doing a whole podcast episode. So clearly it's a little more complex than a simple yes or no. And I let them know that. Um, but I think a lot of times and this happens with a lot of things in publishing, so it tends to be very complex. It's okay, it's kind of basic on whether or not they can afford to be in it or if they should give it a shot. And I always encourage them to assess if it's working, like
Yeah.
make sure you know whether or not this is also going to work for you. And before we get into that, Penny, I had a question and we didn't discuss this in the green room either. So sorry if it's more
No.
complex than we want to get into. But if somebody wants to transition their book to Kindle Unlimited, on a scale of 1 to 10, is that a complicated process if your book is already distributed wide? If your ebook is in a lot of different places?
It can be. The short answer
Okay.
to that is it can be. So if you publish your ebook through a portal like, for example, Draft to Digital or Ingram Spark, there should just be a box that you can check or uncheck, as it were, to get it removed off of those other sites. So
Okay.
basically those feeds, yeah, no, that's a great question because we also get this a lot. Like, I think my book would do better if it's in Kindle Limited, and it's usually related to the Amazon ads, which we'll get to in a second. But it could take up to 90 days, sometimes less, depends on how fast the systems work for it to get pulled out of all of those systems. Right.
Is that something Amazon knows, or is that something you're telling Amazon you're accountable for?
That is something that you're telling Amazon that you're accountable for. Now, whether
Got
Amazon, now I'm not, and this is not us encouraging you to trick the Amazon system, but whether Amazon actually knows that,
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay. You're just risking potentially getting your hand slapped or worse if it somehow they find it still listed on other retail sites and you're in KU.
Right. And I think that, here's the other thing though, too, is that Amazon will probably email you first and say, hey, your book is still listed on blah, blah. The weird thing about this is that, so we all know that pirating books is kind of a difficult. I mean, there have been websites that help, like, oh, we'll take your book down if it's been pirated, whatever. Um, Books sometimes wind up on weird websites, whole entire books. How they get them is a whole separate podcast. Amazon does know the difference between books that have been pirated that are being sold on because I have books that are like that. And what's interesting is that they only pick the really, really, really old, outdated books, which is fine, whatever. Make your 99 cents, you evil pirate person.
Right.
They do know the difference. I've never had an issue. I've never had an author tell me, oh my gosh, I got an email from Amazon saying that my book was on Kobo and I have to pull it down, or my book was on, was pirated and it's showing up because Amazon does, A, they know the difference, and B, I don't know if they have the time necessarily to go and check all of those sites. Again, not encouraging you to lie, but if you're wanting to be in Kindle Unlimited and pulling your book off of all of those other sites, which could take a while, you may want to go ahead and start the Kindle Unlimited now and just, if Amazon does write you, tell them you're doing best efforts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we talked about what kind of the books that these tend to be best for. So the other thing that is also worth mentioning is that when you're running Amazon ads, in particular for genres that are predisposed to Kindle Unlimited readers, like genre fiction, your Amazon ads in particular will perform much better if your book is in Kindle Unlimited. Because keep in mind that you are pulling in a lot of these readers. If you have one book, you're an untested author, etc., your ads will do so much better. And I've seen this firsthand with authors who have, they didn't have their book in Kindle Unlimited, and I'm running ads, and they decided to put their book in Kindle Unlimited, and the ads do so much better, right?
Wow.
So, and do we get this a lot? Like, how do I know how well my book is doing in Kindle Unlimited? Like, do we see that a lot?
I think
authors, do we see that question a lot?
I think we get like, how do I know if it's working? Which I realize is complex because, as you said, how you get paid and things like that, and that's all subjective as well, right?
Right. Well, I think that your Kindle Unlimited, so your KDP dashboard will show you how the page reads how many page reads have happened, how they've gone, right? And you'll be able to tell from those page reads. And again, every book is different because the page reads are based on the site, how many pages are in the book, etc. You'll be able to get a sense of whether readers are actually completing the book, right? In some cases, authors will take their first book in a series and put that in Kindle Unlimited to get readers into the series, especially if the book is much older, like especially if they've been working on the series for a few years. So when you're running ads on the first book in the series to get them into the series is probably really smart, right?
Right. No, I love that idea.
Yeah. And so here's a weird little thing that I just want to kind of throw at our listeners too. So my books are obviously they're book marketing. They are in Kindle Unlimited, right? And the reason that my books are Kindle Unlimited is, yes, it's because of the audience, right? And I discovered this with my first book. I was like, when I put it in Kindle Unlimited, it started doing so much better. It sounds like, a book on book marketing. Like you would think, well, isn't that just like a business book? Like, wouldn't this book not do as well and like not necessarily need to be in Kindle Unlimited? But again, it comes back down to the audience. It comes down to the readership, and my readership, they tend to be KU, they tend to have a Kindle Unlimited membership, so the book does better when it's in KU. But what I did with my most recent book, The Amazon Author Formula, is I didn't put it in Kindle Unlimited right away. Part of the reason for that is because I wanted people, I mean, and again, I'm established. I'm not as established as like maybe, one of the recs but the book recs that I sent to Amy, certainly. But I'm established enough that I really wanted to eke out book sales initially before I put the book in Kindle Unlimited. So that's another strategy too that you could do is if you have a number of books out, delay your Kindle Unlimited for, I think I delayed mine for 8 months. My book was almost a year old when I finally put it in Kindle Unlimited.
That's so smart.
And now it does really well. It does really well. So when the formula workbook comes out, which hopefully we're still on target for Q1 of this year, that book will not go in Kindle Unlimited. But what happens is that because the first formula book is in Kindle Unlimited, it's going to spur the sales because I'm going to at some point add a page in that book like, hey, just so you know, there's a workbook for this book. There's a workbook for this book. That will help to spur the sales for the workbook. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it makes me now I'm thinking, okay, so if an author has some backlist titles that are not really, you know what I mean, that need a new life,
Yeah.
in addition to obviously doing some strategic marketing as well, but makes me think that could potentially be another option as well to just try to get it in front of more people.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so that's really where you can be really, I mean, I realize that this is kind of Amazon's game, like I get it, but you can still be really strategic with your Kindle Unlimited choices, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, I'm just going to put this in Kindle Unlimited and hope for the best. You can be strategic with it. And don't necessarily, so you have an option of auto renewing it for 9, like where it just stays in Kindle Unlimited forever and ever until you pull it out. For me personally, I don't do that with my books because I want to see how well. So I'll leave it in there for 90 days, and then Amazon sends me an email. It's like, oh, do you want to continue the Kindle Unlimited? And then I can opt to do it or not.
Sure. That's really smart. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because emailing Amazon to get them like, oh, can you pull my book out of Kindle Unlimited? I mean, that takes like 45 emails because they either I'm in the wrong department or they're on cooperative or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, but I think that I hope that Amy, did I miss anything in terms of the
No.
deep dive of
We hit all of our points and then some, which is awesome.
and then some? Yeah. I think Kindle Unlimited is something use it smartly. Don't just use it because you think that's the only way that you can get sales. But and this is another, I think this is a final point. If you aren't getting sales on your book, it's probably not Kindle Unlimited's fault. Like, I mean, whether if you're not in Kindle Unlimited, like, I'm just going to put it in Kindle Unlimited and now I'm going to start selling books like crazy. That's probably not the answer. And we have another show that we did a few weeks ago. Go back and look for it if you haven't listened to it already. Kindle Unlimited is a strategy. That's it. It's a strategy to get you in front of more readers. It's not necessarily going to make or break the success of a book because your book will still sell. It enables you to reach a wider audience. I think is really what I'm trying to say.
I think this was helpful. And I love that you explained the difference, because I think that's a huge one, is that there's so many things on Amazon that sound similar and all the different services and options and things like that. And I can understand why it's overwhelming, especially for first-time authors or authors for the first time that are loading their books, if they've published differently in other ways,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you went into that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, we love show ideas. So if you wish like, oh, Penny and Amy, they haven't done, we haven't done this or something. I mean, absolutely email us. We love your show ideas. We love your show feedback. We also love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. So be sure and you have to subscribe to a show. This is something I have omitted in all of the prior shows where we begged for reviews. Well, I've begged for reviews because it validates me, people. Like just, but you actually have to be subscribed to the show to be able to review it. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. So be sure to subscribe to the show because then you get notified every time we release a show, which we do every week. But then you if you're not subscribed to the show, they won't let you review it. It's weird. I don't understand why that is, but that's the game. So we have to play the game. Listen, thank you all so much for listening. This is our 5th year. I know I say this a lot, mostly because I'm just so like 5 years. Like it's amazing. We have so many shows. If you just found us, go back through the archive. You can certainly search it on our website at amarketingexpert.com/podcast, and you can find all of the other prior shows. Well, there's a lot of content out there. So if you're really struggling for answers, contact us. Absolutely. We are more than happy to help you, but that's why we create this show. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, and for being part of our podcast family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.